It should come as no surprise that Le Pen has received the backing of not just Russian banks, but of Trump's most slovenly supporter, Steve Bannon, who is an active opponent of democracy. With all that said, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and Le Pen's loss is a resounding victory for democracy and for the French people, who, despite deep frustrations with the president, chose democracy over extremism. The same, unfortunately, cannot be said here in America, where the modern Republican Party is taking a page from Orban's book and leaning hard into authoritarian socialism, where Christian conservatives are waging a full-on jihad against those who disagree with their increasingly and obsessively anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-immigrant, anti-history views. Look no further than the free state for some of Florida, where Ron DeSantis has waged a hypocritical war on Disney. Freaking Disney. Why? Because they dared to push back on his hideous Don't Say Gay law. Last week, the state legislature voted to dissolve Disney's special Reedy Creek district, which allowed them to control zoning and operate their own police and fire departments and kept them from having to operate under rules that other counties must use. Now, I'm old enough to remember when those same Republicans in 2019 had a heart attack when the San Antonio City Council voted to bar Chick-fil-A from the city airport. The reason? The council opposed what they called Chick-fil-A's, quote, legacy of anti-LGBT behavior. Republicans cried foul and squealed about the company's freedom of speech. Flash forward to 2022, where Florida Republicans are proudly attacking Disney's freedom of speech and fake punishing them by effectively hiking taxes on hundreds of thousands of Floridians to the tune of roughly $160 million. That is almost a 25% tax hike on the people who live in Disney's counties. On top of that, they're passing $1 billion in Disney bond debt onto every Florida taxpayer to punish Disney for speech. Now, naturally, such a massive tax hike would make you think it is political suicide for DeSantis. But if you dig a little deeper, you realize why they just don't care. Orange County and Osceola County, which would also be affected, are chock full of Democrats. Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings told an NBC affiliate that if we had to take over the first response and public safety components for Reedy Creek with no new revenue, that would be catastrophic for our budget in Orange County. It would put an undue burden on the rest of the taxpayers in Orange County to fill that gap. But again, why would Florida Republicans care? Political punishment is the point. I mean, the guy who filed this legislative assault on Disney, a state rep named Randy Fine, has also threatened funding for the Special Olympics, over an argument with some school board members and because he didn't get invited to a dinner. Yeah, it is that bad in the former Sunshine State. Representative Charlie Crist, the former Republican governor, now Democrat, slammed DeSantis' tactics, calling him a threat to the state's economy and a wannabe king. And if all that doesn't scare you enough, buckle up, Buttercup. Because today, Baby MAGA signed a bill that allows him to create his own private police force that is tasked with pursuing alleged election law violations. Just lovely. The big lie will now have its own battalion of goons. I wonder who they'll go after first. I think you can guess. Joining me now, Congressman Charlie Crist of Florida, who is campaigning for governor of Florida, again, an office that he previously held. Governor, I always want to call you Governor Crist. Congressman Crist, thank you so much for being here. I'm tempted.
It's great to be with you. Thank you so much.
It's always good to talk to you. So just for those who think that what I just said is hyperbole, I want to quickly play for our audience this same man, Representative Fine, State Representative Fine, in a back and forth, or two Republicans in a back and forth about the bill that punishes Disney. Take a look.
Is this bill not a direct result of Representative Roach saying if Disney wants to embrace woke ideology, it seems fitting they should be regulated by Orange County? Isn't that what this bill is?
When you poke the bear or you kick the bee's nest, sometimes issues come out. And I think that when the bee's nest got kicked, based on how a guest in our state chose to comport itself, I think what ended up happening is the idea of special districts were taken a look at.
Is there an opportunity for Disney to change their mind and say, we will disregard this whole woke agenda, we'll go back to what we originally dealt with the state of Florida? And would the governor then say, okay, fine, you keep your status, but let's talk about, we're going to keep an eye on you now. How does this play out for Disney? A lot of people like Disney, and they don't want to not like Disney anymore.
Sure, and of course.
That second speaker was the lieutenant governor of Florida saying, yeah, sure, if they change their ways, maybe we'll change our mind. And this idea of you poked the bear and now we're going to take a new look at special districts. They didn't, Governor, did they? Because they only took a look at one special district. There are a lot of others. They didn't go after Daytona. They didn't go after NASCAR that has Daytona Beach. They didn't go after the Villages, just this one. Your thoughts?
Well, you're absolutely right, Joyanne. I mean, this is punishment. This is punitive, and it's intentional, and it's bullying. I mean, Disney can't express their right to free speech in the Sunshine State anymore. I mean, this has got to be unconstitutional, number one, under both the United States Constitution and the Florida Constitution. It is outrageous. And then the notion that the governor is saying, yeah, in a press conference where he signed the bill last week, are you doing this to take out punishment upon them? And he goes, yeah, that's what we're doing. And just to brazenly admit it like that, usually you would be maybe a little more subtle, but not this fellow. And it's unbelievable. You're a Floridian, former Floridian, and people in Florida are good people. They're decent people. They're kind people. They deserve better than this. And it's disappointing and it's heartbreaking. I wear these yellow wristbands every day, and they say practice the golden rule every day, which simply means do unto others as you would have done unto you. Well, if Ron DeSantis, our current governor, and I hope soon not, ever learned the golden rule, he's evidently already forgotten it. And that's astonishing to me that you have this kind of attitude, but I think I figured it out. Joy, I think what's going on here is that Governor DeSantis is so laser focused on the 2024 Republican presidential primary and going against Donald Trump. He's trying to out-Trump Trump and doing these kind of things. I mean, he signed into law recently the most anti-abortion bill in Florida history. He's gone after LGBTQ kids. I mean, African Americans who want the right to vote openly and freely in the Sunshine State has been made more difficult by legislation that he has signed, taking away drop boxes in minority communities throughout Florida, also making it more difficult to use mail-in voting. Fortunately, a federal court already took that down, but they've passed another one this session, so we're going to have to go to court again to try to stop these things. But it's one thing after another. It's almost like he goes to bed every night thinking, what group can I punish tomorrow? Women, African Americans, LGBTQ, you name it. And now he's not just gone after Disney in an anti-business fashion. The Florida Chamber of Commerce ought to back me instead of DeSantis for what's going on. And I'm more pro-business, but this isn't the first time. He did it to the Florida cruise industry too. Right. Because they wanted to make sure that people that came on the boats didn't have the virus. I mean, it's unbelievable, really.
And I mean, the thing is that, you used to be a Republican, and there used to be a pretty solid principle among Republicans that you don't choose winners and losers, that the government shouldn't be doing that, and they shouldn't be using the tax code and the power, the raw power of government to pick winners and losers. I'm going to put that graphic back up. There are 1,800 special tax districts in Florida. This is not a thing that only Disney has. They went and excised one. And that one is where Universal Studios and SeaWorld and Disney are. And if you could just explain, as somebody who has had to administer the state as its governor, when you do that and then you transfer the need to improve those Disney rides and police and do fire services for Disney, that then is the responsibility of Orange County and of Osceola, right? This is going to literally raise the taxes of every Floridian in those counties, but then of the whole state, because the bond debt is now on the state.
Well, the whole hit is going to be about $2 billion. Think about that. This will be the largest single tax increase in the history of Florida under Governor Ron DeSantis. What happened to less taxes, less government, more freedom from the Republican Party? Apparently, it's out the window because it's all about authoritarianism. This is democracy versus autocracy. And I'm in favor of democracy. He tried to tear it down with his anti-democracy legislation as it related to our voting rights. I served with John Lewis. a wonderful civil rights leader who used to always tell me, and any of my colleagues in Congress who would listen, Charlie, let me tell you something. The right to vote is precious. In fact, he said, it's so precious, it is sacred, something from God. It gives us our right to freedom, our right to express ourselves, whether you want to protect a woman's right to choose, LGBTQ children, or Disney's right to free speech. It's unbelievable what he's doing. It really is.
And